biggest and greatest mysteries. A colossal monument built by an ancient civilization that continues to just blow our minds. So the big question is, how on earth did they build it? All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get a sense of the sheer scale of the challenge. Then we'll look at why it was built in the first place. We'll debunk some common myths, piece together the real construction story, and then finish up with the questions that still have experts totally stumped. So first things first, before we can even guess how they did it, you have to appreciate just how insane this project was. We're talking about a task that would be a massive, massive challenge, even with all the technology we have today. Okay, get ready for this number. The estimated weight of the Great Pyramid is a staggering 6 million tons. That's millions of massive stone blocks that all had to be quarried, somehow moved, and then set perfectly into place.
And to really put that into perspective, look at this. The Great Pyramid is 12 times heavier than the Burj Khalifa, the tallest skyscraper on the planet right now. An ancient structure just dwarfing a modern marvel in sheer mass. It's unbelievable.
And here's the kicker, right? How in the world did they accomplish this? No cranes, no bulldozers. They didn't even use the wheel for hauling things around. That, right there, is the core of this whole mystery. Every great investigation needs a motive. So why would anyone go to all this trouble? The answer isn't about technology. It's about what they believed. At its heart, the pyramid was a tomb. It was meant to be the eternal resting place for the pharaoh Khufu. You see, ancient Egyptians had this profound belief in an afterlife. Your soul would be judged, and a tomb this grand was basically a way to make sure the pharaoh became immortal. So, how are we so sure it's a tomb? Well, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. First, we found ancient texts inside other pyramids that spell out these exact burial customs. And second, there's a clear pattern. The vast majority of the other pyramids found in the area were, you guessed it, tombs for their rulers. Now, before we get to the real builders, we got to do a little myth-busting. Over the years, some really popular but totally wrong theories have spread like wildfire. And the biggest myth of all, the one you've definitely seen in the movies, is that slaves built the pyramids. This idea has been around forever, first written down by the ancient Greek historian Herodotus thousands of years ago. But yeah, modern archaeology tells a completely different story. The evidence shows that the pyramids were actually built by a massive, highly skilled workforce of around 20 to 30,000 men. And they were respected, well-fed, ate better than most citizens actually, and were proud participants in what was basically a national project. And of course, there are some other wild theories out there, like that the pyramid was some kind of ancient power plant, or a giant granary. Fun ideas for sure. But there is absolutely zero logical or archaeological evidence to back them up. Okay, so with the myths out of the way, we get to the really good stuff. Who actually built this thing? And more importantly, how did they pull it off? Let's dig into the evidence that tells the real story. The amount of material they used is just incredible. Most of the limestone came from quarries nearby, but get this, the granite, all 8,000 tons of it, had to be brought in from about 800 kilometers away. The logistics for that alone are just staggering to think about. So how did they slice through hard granite? Not with brute force. They used this absolutely ingenious trick. They'd find a crack, hammer in some wooden wedges, soak them with water, and as the wood expanded, crack. The power of nature would split the rock. So simple, but so brilliant. Now, what about moving these huge blocks? Well, a major clue comes from this 4,000-year-old painting. You can see a bunch of guys pulling a massive statue on a sledge. But look really close at the guy at the very front. What is he doing? He's pouring something on the sand. For ages, people thought this was just a ceremonial thing. Turns out it was a stroke of engineering genius. A physics study in 2014 figured it out. Getting sand just the right amount of wet can reduce friction so much that it cuts the force needed to pull the sledge in half. That's a total game changer. But pulling is one thing. How did they lift stones weighing up to 80 tons? Well, there are two leading theories. One is a complex system of ramps, maybe spiraling up the pyramid. The other is that they used giant levers. They already had a device called a shadoof that worked like a big seesaw for lifting water. So the thinking is they just scaled that idea way, way up. Now, while those theories are pretty good, they don't quite solve the whole puzzle.
And this is where the mystery really deepens because there are several key questions that are still completely unanswered. First, the speed. If they really finished in 20 years, it means they had to place a new, perfectly cut stone every 3 minutes, around the clock. Just think about that pace. Then there's the mortar. We know it's chemical makeup, but we literally cannot recreate it today. And finally, maybe the most mind-bending mystery of all is the alignment.
The pyramid is aligned to true north, east, south, and west, with an error of just 1/15 of a degree. I mean, that is almost perfect. To achieve that kind of precision without a compass or GPS is, frankly, astounding. It would challenge our best engineers even today. The Great Pyramid isn't just a monument of stone. It's a monument to what people can achieve. It's a 4,500-year-old message telling us that the limits of what's possible are often just in our own heads. It leaves us wondering, what other secrets are still buried in the sand? And, maybe more importantly, what ancient genius have we completely forgotten?